Hey there, welcome to my channel. So guys, I've been a fan of K-pop for 10 years now, and I've been a fan and a follower of 50 to 60 different groups over the past decade, and I've always wanted to have a channel like this where I could talk to people like you about the happenings of the K-pop world, and I figured why not start now? I recently came across this really interesting video from Red Velvet Sus, if you've heard of that channel, about noise music in K-pop. I think this has been a long developing discussion. There have been so many videos, forum posts, comments, tweets, etc. from both Korean fans and international fans about this, so I thought I'd add my 2 cents. I think there's so much that still hasn't been said about why we are currently in what I might refer to as the noise pop epidemic. Since the early 2010s, K-pop has undergone serious changes. A decade ago, groups performed catchy, hook-oriented, melody-driven songs that focused on public consumption and popularity. Now, a lot of groups, even from big companies, come back with hard-hitting, EDM-driven songs with disjointed rap sections and decreased emphasis on vocal and melodic delivery. So you might be asking, why has this change happened, and why does it matter? If you ask me, the advent of noise pop is really a product of two interconnected things. One, the fandom fragmentation of K-pop over time, and two, the increased financial success of groups with or without public popularity. Before I explain that further though, I also want to say really fast that not all noise pop is bad. Pop music anywhere has always incorporated some unwelcome sounds, brash tones, loud, angry, clashing verses. It was part of K-pop many years ago as well, which I'll explain. Lots of good noise pop exists too, and it's probably not going anywhere as a subgenre of K-pop, if we want to call it that. I also want to quickly interject that you should definitely watch that Red Velvet Sus video because it frames the issue really well, and it's a good video and a good channel. So, check it out. I'll link it below. So to get to the root of the noise pop epidemic of sorts, I think we do have to travel back to the early 2010s, at least briefly. These were the days when groups like Girls' Generation, 2NE1, SHINee, Big Bang, Super Junior, Wonder Girls, etc. were really popular. Of course, both back then and now, K-pop groups were designed to be profitable. Managers, CEOs, executives, dancers, stylists, etc. were all doing what they could to make the artist a financially viable and profitable venture. This has always been at the core of K-pop and has never really changed. Back then, fandoms were strong and groups were very profitable, but it was really nothing compared to now. Even the biggest boy groups like Big Bang or Super Junior were rarely crossing the 300,000 mark on album sales, which is something mid-tier boy groups can blow past these days. World tours weren't really an option for most of these groups yet either, since they were still building the international audience that would catapult them to be able to do that on a global scale later. This was even more clear for girl groups. The biggest girl groups were able to make a lot of money from album sales, but even popular mid-tier groups like After School and Secret sold between 15 to 30,000 albums at best, and only the most popular could have one concert at a big stadium in Seoul, let alone a whole world tour. The lack of concrete fandom power meant that, in order to be profitable, groups had to really satisfy the general public. They needed to be on TV, get commercial endorsement deals, get streaming revenue from platforms like Melon and Bugs, and that means, more than anything, having public-friendly music that could keep them relevant. Usually, public-friendly music isn't super noisy. It's not full of EDM drops and dance breaks. It's often more melodic and less brash. That's why earlier hit songs in K-pop, like SHINee's Lucifer or Girls' Generation's G or 2NE1's I'm the Best, had some elements of noise and dance electro, but still maintained some baseline melody and coherence. They were more along the lines of today's IU and Brave Girls songs than, say, an itzy or Stray Kids song. An important point to make here, though, is that noise pop isn't only a 2018 and on thing. There are earlier instances of noise pop as well. Some that I think of are 1. EXO's Wolf in 2012, 2. Tiara N4's Chunwon Diary in 2013, and most notably, Girls' Generation's I Got a Boy, also from 2013. I think I Got a Boy was probably one of the most notable and early instances of noise pop, and is one that really inspired future acts to do the same. One of the main reasons for each of these acts releasing music like this was that they weren't really trying to satisfy the general public. EXO had already proven themselves as rookies to have a huge fandom, and they weren't worried about having to have the biggest hit to make themselves financially solvent. They were probably in true SM fashion, trying to, and you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes, push boundaries, end quote, even though they kind of did, but it's still kind of noisy, and build a larger fandom. Girls' Generation had already been at the top of their game for years at that point, and really had nothing to prove to anyone. And Tiara's PR situation at that point, following their huge scandal, was really so bad that they couldn't really satisfy the general public no matter what they put out. And I think that song was really a manifestation of that. These earlier instances of noise pop also align with my theory that when a group feels insulated or left out of public popularity, they use noise pop as a fan-satisfying, shock-inducing method of keeping fans interested. So if they didn't feel that they need the general public because they had an interested fandom, or in Tiara's case, they weren't really going to get the public interested no matter what, that's kind of where noise pop comes in. And this leads to another central thrust of my argument. Noise pop is amazing for amassing a fandom. With noisy, disjointed songs, you can keep the shock value high and structure a song in a way that gives attractive and captivating dancers and rappers tons of attention. Fans will hear the song and spend a ton of time watching the performances, and then listen to the song again with the powerful moments of the performance in their head. They'll go crazy for the specific dance breaks and spotlights that members get in noise pop songs. It's a form of music that is built for different members to shine in different moments, whether it's a rap break, a dance break, or an occasional vocal pre-chorus that leads up to a drop. It's not as much about a group acting coherently to really get like some earworm hook in your head, as much as it is about you getting obsessed with really particular moments that make you invested in either the members individually or the group altogether. There's a reason why an aespa or itzy or Stray Kids comeback is so exciting. You want to watch the thrills and experience them as you listen. It's perfect for someone who is taking part audio-visually, meaning they're not only listening, they're also watching. On the other hand, it might not make sense for the casual commuter, the casual listener, who's, listening on their commute or just trying to find something fun to listen to during the workday. And this brings us back to the present. In 2021, the K-pop fandom is much, much bigger globally, and companies know that the money lies in amassing a fandom who will buy millions of copies of albums worldwide, and once COVID is over, send the groups on profitable world tours. The key to making groups successful is to up the shock value and dance prowess of a group, make them so stunning on stage that you can't take your eyes away. It's less about having a song that sticks in your head. If anything, having public popularity is even more risky, because the public is never loyal. If a member gets into a controversy, there go the CF deals, the TV appearances, and ultimately the group is back to square one. But a fandom, on the other hand, is loyal, and once you sell 2 million albums, you already have that money, whether the fandom gets mad at you eventually or not. With all the bullying and all the other scandals that idols have been getting into, I'm sure companies are leaning even more heavily into activities that amass fandoms as opposed to building public popularity. Even putting scandals aside, the sheer size of the market means that groups like Dreamcatcher can survive and stay financially afloat, at least I think they are, I hope they are, with a relatively stable fandom, even if their releases don't always chart in Korea. The gold mine is when you're a group like aespa, whose songs do lean more on the noisy side, but you're so popular that you can still be publicly popular and chart well with a song that leans in the noisier territory. Of course, I know that some of this analysis is a little crude and sad, that it really all comes down to money, but I think that's kind of what K-pop is at this point, and kind of maybe always has been. Of course, there's so much creativity and excitement and musical experimentation that K-pop brings, but I think what I've learned following this industry for a decade is that ultimately a lot of these companies and the decisions they make comes down to dollars. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. To sum up, noise pop is kind of the logical extreme of what K-pop is. It's audio-visual music that emphasizes the visual, imputing dance and visual shock into a song itself. The songs themselves aren't really selling the song. They're trying to sell the group as a brand worthy of your eyes, ears, and money. And that's why it's been so successful. In my opinion, as much as I like some noise pop songs, I do think there are downsides to it. It means that a song won't be as coherent. It's not something that you can kind of let take over your head like those earworm hooks that I used to love from K-pop a few years ago. I think another downside, at least for me, with noise pop is the fact that vocals become a little bit de-emphasized. Vocals are mostly there for either ad-libs or maybe a powerful pre-chorus that leads up to an EDM drop. It's often not there as a central point of a song on its own, and that makes me kind of sad because if there's one thing about K-pop that I used to really love, it's the vocals. So I do miss that a lot. For those of you like me who have complicated feelings about noise pop, or you dislike it even more than I do, is this the end? Will K-pop be overtaken by noise pop forever? I think definitely not. Trends always change. While noisy girl crush EDM songs are the trend now, it'll slowly change in favor of something else once this tires fans out, which I think, as Red Velvet Sus notes, it already kind of is. There's also artists who are going against that grain, like Twice, Stacy, and others, whose music still carries a more melodic, less disjointed frame. Lastly, I think the one market where noise may stay to a minimum and melodic pop will win is the female solo market. Unless you're Taeyeon or IU, you're not selling hundreds of thousands of albums as a female solo. You're likely still looking for CF deals, TV appearances, and public-friendly songs to keep yourself relevant and afloat, which means the music tends to remain more public-friendly. I think that's why artists like Chungha and Sunmi usually put out music that's aimed to at least satisfy some of the public. Of course, there are exceptions to that within their discography as well, but that's been a general trend that I've noticed over the years. So that's my whole analysis on this. I want to end by saying that, again, I don't mean to insult you if you like noise pop. I really like some of it as well. This is just my theory about where noise pop comes from and where it's going. And I'd really love if you could drop your take on my take in the comments below. What did I get right and what did I get wrong? Definitely let me know. If you like this, definitely subscribe because there's a lot more where that came from. Let me know if there's any topics in particular you'd like me to cover. I think I'm going to talk about Girls Planet 999 next because I definitely have a lot of thoughts on that. Thanks, and have a good day.